Welcome and thank you for joining us today. I'm Beth Gibbons, the Program Manager, and this webinar is for schools wishing to submit an application to our multi-year partnership opportunity, which is open to all schools nationwide who fit our criteria. Joining me today is Andrew and Rona. Andrew is our National Coach Manager and Rona is the Administration Officer here at Schools Plus. And all three of us work closely with our schools and through this application journey as well. So before we dive in, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we're coming to you from. I'd like to acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. Our First Nations people are this country's first teachers, and we have much to learn from their culture. We're now going to turn off our video so you can enjoy the benefit of focusing on the key information in the following slides. So just to give you a bit of a brief overview of Schools Plus, Australian Schools Plus exists to help close the education gap caused by disadvantage. We believe all children should have access to a great education regardless of their background. As a registered charity, we work with teachers and schools in disadvantaged areas to empower them with funding, coaching and resources to implement initiatives that will help their children and young people succeed. Our support is directed to Australian schools that have a value below 1,000 on the National Index of Community Socio-Educational Advantage, the ICSEA. We make a determined effort to support schools at the lower end of this ICSEA scale because they're those most in need. More than 4,600 schools across Australia and all sectors, so across the government, Catholic and independent sectors, are eligible for support through Schools Plus. We were a recommendation in the original Gonski review that an organisation should be established to allow schools greater access to philanthropic support. And we began supporting schools directly in 2015. And since then, we've raised $60 million, which is benefiting over 500,000 students, 1,300 schools and over 40,000 teachers. So our multi-year partnership. So this year there is an opportunity to support schools looking to implement long-term projects over that 3-year period that might require an extended implementation phase leading to deeper, longer-term change. We're looking for projects that are embedded in the school's long-term strategy and supported by school leadership that are researched and evidence-based. Those that seek to contribute new thinking and learning to the wider educational discourse. And examples of projects such as these in the past have included building industry connections and career pathways for students via mentorship, workplace encounters and community engagement roadmaps, design and dissemination of a passport for learning tool across a network of special schools to provide individual support to learners, and implementation of parent-child interaction therapy, the PCIT, to address barriers for regional-based families in accessing effective intervention. This round is not funding projects that are covered by core funding from your department, such as building projects, permanent staff positions, or things like shade cloths, sport court upgrades or playgrounds. We encourage you to please check the guidelines for other elements that we're unable to support as well. But what is available? So there's 3 parts to a multi-year partnership. Firstly, funding. So there is funding available to support the implementation of this 3-year project, and it does range in value depending if you're applying as a single school or a cluster of schools. So if you're applying for an individual school, you can apply for up to $30,000, and that's per year. So $30,000 across the 3-year partnership. If you are applying for as a cluster of schools. A cluster of schools is between 3 and 10 schools working together. You're eligible to apply for up to $75,000 per year for that project. The other part of component to the partnership is our coaching. So schools will be partnered with a coach which is allocated from our team of educational professionals. So schools plus coaches provide an independent sounding board for school leaders and teachers beyond their education system. All of our coaches have extensive recent experience in schools and will provide each school with up to 12 hours of coaching per year over the duration of the project, so across those 3 years. The first session will be an intensive session, and that will focus on the deeper project co-design and will be a 3.5-hour workshop. The third part is program management and evaluation. So all our successful schools will receive ongoing project management, and through this process, schools can evaluate the success of their project using a project planning tool to track the impact of their project. So eligibility. So as I said, we do encourage you to read the guidelines to check your eligibility, and we do have that ICSIA value of below 1,000. We also, if you are applying as a single school or a cluster, you can only apply once. You can't apply for both. And please check those guidelines. So what can be supported? What are we looking for? We're looking for projects that will start in Term 1, 2024 and have a close link to your school's existing strategic plan and supported by that leadership team. Projects that require an extended implementation phase to effectively embed sustainable change. Those that seek to contribute new thinking and learning to the wider educational discourse. Replication or extension where existing strategies are being tried in a new location or with a new cluster. And projects of all types will be considered. So that could be a STEM, numeracy, literacy, professional learning and capacity building, wellbeing, community engagement, or an allied health partnership project. Schools located in remote and very remote locations are encouraged to apply. So in terms of filling in the grant application, some simple tips to help with that. So as I have said and keep saying, we do encourage you to read those guidelines. So take the time to read our website, read the guidelines thoroughly. Here's where you're going to be able to gain useful information about what we're looking for, how much is available, projects we've supported in the past, and those eligibility elements. So with those eligibility, we do have many applications that are knocked back in that first cull because they're ineligible. So before you start filling in the form, read the guidelines. If you're unsure, please reach out and we're more than happy to help with any questions. Be concise and compelling. So answer those questions in the application directly and clearly and specifically as possible. So for instance, we encourage you to say things like, our aim is to increase student attendance from 65% to 80%, which is better than a vague statement such as we aim to increase student attendance. Tell a compelling story throughout your application. So explain the current situation and the need, why you've chosen this approach, what activities you'll undertake, and who's going to benefit. Avoid using acronyms or jargon. Write for a layperson and don't assume the funder knows anything about your school. Include a clear and thorough budget. We will cover this a little bit more detail, but we want to know exactly how the grant will be spent. So be specific about your budget items, such as 10 iPads or 25 textbooks, or if the funding is for teacher relief, 5 days at $400 a day. And make sure that budget matches the first year of activities that you've outlined in your application. And then don't forget to submit on time. Check the closing date, check the closing time so that you don't miss the deadline. We receive a lot of applications and will not accept any late applications. So try not to leave it to the last minute to avoid any computer glitches or other late dramas that may stop you submitting. I'm now going to hand over to my colleague Andrew, and Andrew's going to run through some of those key questions and what we are looking for.
Thanks, Beth. The object of the next little section of our webinar is to really help you maximise the chance of success with your application and consider some key questions that might help you in that endeavour. When putting your responses together, it's really important to outline your outcomes and your plan when considering the 3 years of support that Schools Plus will provide you within this project lifecycle, as well as providing some of the student beneficiary information and really unpacking the goal of your project. We'll also be asking for information in the following areas, such as project rationale, student-focused intervention, chunking down your broader project concept into manageable bite-sized strategies, how you are going to consider measuring the success of your project, how your project will be sustained into the future after your relationship with Schools Plus is concluded, and also some budget considerations around how you're going to maintain the work throughout the project lifecycle. In relation to project rationale, it's important that you provide an outline of what's happening currently in your school context and why it's important to bring about change. What makes this project a context-based response to your local issues or your challenges or gaps that you're experiencing locally? How do you know this is important? What does the data tell you? You'll be asked to support your answer with some evidence or research, or perhaps some locally sourced data sets that help indicate the need in your particular school environment. In relation to your student-focused intervention, this is the part of the application we were able to specifically identify the student outcomes that you're aiming to transform as a result of the work that you're going to undertake with us. This could include an activity or program that targets a key area for your students in your school or your broader learning community if you're in a cluster. For example, this could be an oral language program that screens students to identify those at risk and provides targeted interventions to address those skill gaps that might have been identified. Another area is considering how you might author some strategies that help chunk down your broader project goal into more manageable bite-sized chunks that will help you measure your achievement along the way. This might include charting some of the activities that you'll undertake over the next 3 years, and they could include staff professional learning or perhaps a new pedagogical design of lesson delivery. It's important that you provide a breakdown by term of how the project will roll out for the first year, and then more of an overview of years 2 and 3. Consider what resources you'll need to implement your strategies over the 3 years and who will be involved. Importantly here, don't forget to consider your human resource element and how the capacity of your staff will help carry the project through your project lifecycle. You might also like to consider some of the following key areas in the development of your strategies, and they include school leadership, teaching and learning, and also family and community engagement. Importantly, you need to consider measurement or the measurement of success of your project over time and how you might undertake that process throughout the project lifecycle. Consider what you're going to measure and what tools that you'll use to measure that. Is there something that you already utilise within your school community, or will you need to develop something new within your school or perhaps the cluster of schools with which you're working with? The concept of baseline data is a really important one at Schools Plus, particularly within our project work. And the development of solid baseline data will allow you to exactly pinpoint the current state of achievement within your school context, but also provide a really solid ground for which to chart your success moving forward. Please outline your baseline data points within your application. It gives us a really good indication of the point of need within your school context. Your coach, if successful, will also help you chart a course of development utilising your baseline data points, at least into the first year and subsequent years of your project also. Some other considerations in the measurement space might include what will look different after 3 years and how will you know? What does success look like in certain components of your project? And what might the change be about in relation to mindset, knowledge, skills, or practice within your school context? Sustainability is another important initiative within your project work with Schools Plus, and a key question might include how will this initiative be sustained into the future after the initial project lifecycle has concluded with Schools Plus. For example, if you utilise part of the funding for additional teacher time to make a project work, what is the consideration from where funding will come from after the funding period with Schools Plus draws to a close? How will the capacity of your staff that you developed in that time affect this? It is hoped that in the years after your project lifecycle has concluded, that your initiative will continue to positively affect staff, students, and the broader community within your school context. Lastly, I'd like to touch on the budgetary component of your project. You'll be asked to specify the amount requested through Schools Plus. This will be for the first year of support. For example, if you're a single school, this will be $30,000. When outlining the budget items, these should be reflective of what you will be spending in year one, equaling the amount requested, being $30,000. You'll be asked to detail this, and for subsequent years, a broader outline will be worked through with your coach as part of your first coaching session. I'd now like to hand over to my colleague Rona, who will run through some key dates and processes with you. Are you happy?
The partnership round will be open for 5 weeks between the 7th of August to the 11th of September. Initial assessments and shortlisted schools will be notified in late September. Shortlisted schools will then be further assessed by independent experts in the field of their project theme. This will be followed by online interviews to be held in October. This is an opportunity to gather additional information about projects for our understanding. We'll send the interview questions beforehand. For the schools in the interview stage, Schools Plus will make the final selection of projects and send notifications in early December. We aim to have successful schools to have their first coaching session to be conducted in Term 4 2023 or Term 1 2024. For funds to be released, schools must sign the funding agreement and complete the required documents to be approved by the coach and submitted to Schools Plus. To apply for the partnership round, please refer to the guidelines on the Schools Plus website for further information. It would be advantageous to your project team to set aside adequate time to review and discuss the key questions before submitting the application. You can contact Schools Plus for any questions, or you can book a time with a coach for project design support. This will be available between the 17th of July and the 1st of September. Late applications will not be accepted. As a reminder, applications will open from the 7th of August, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, with a closing date on the 11th of September, midnight Eastern Standard Time.
Great. So hopefully that provided you with the information needed to complete a quality application. As Rona said, please reach out to us at Schools Plus email address. Go to our website under Partnership Round for Schools, where there's all the information provided, guidelines, FAQs. And thank you so much and good luck.